Hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of Water's Rear Window. It's cold, it's rainy.
It's Vampire the Week.
This week's film is inspired by our friend Andrea, who moved to Portland just because of Twilight. So join us in discussing 2000's teenage craze, Team Edward, and is it real love or is Bella's blood just that tasty? So Maya, you saw Twilight over your vacation.
I did indeed. It was, I think, the second time I've seen Twilight in my life. Yeah, I think, let's see. So this was the first time I had seen it and really paid attention to it. The first time I saw it was about 2 years ago, and I was really kind of phoning it in, watching it. But yeah, this time I really tried to absorb everything. How many times have you seen it before?
You didn't watch Twilight when it first came out, when you were in
No, I was you'll come to find that I missed out on a lot of those teen craze moments. My mom was not big on teen media, so she wouldn't take us to see that stuff. So if we were gonna see it, we had to go see it on our own. And so I missed out on Harry Potter, on Twilight. I did see The Hunger Games and Divergent.
And your friends didn't bug you to go see it in theater?
You know what's funny is no, I actually get bugged about it more as an adult than I did as a teen. More people are you haven't seen Twilight? Now to me than they ever were when I was a kid.
Ah, okay.
I know. I'm friends with a lot of Twilight fans, I guess.
No, that's interesting. Because I saw it when I was much younger. And it was in a group with all my friends. We set a date because it was we all read the books and then the movie was coming out. So then we were all let's go see it. And then made a plan, and then it was not my mother, it was somebody else's mother who had to chaperone, and then we all had to go in a group. So
well, that sounds nice. See, that would have been a good experience to have, but yeah, no, I never really did that. What were your first impressions when you first saw it, not this time around?
I mean, it was almost a decade ago when I first saw it.
Think back to 10 years ago, Claire's mind.
I remember just being really excited because it was one of the first time I ever did that since I moved to America, going to see a movie.
That's a good memory. That's nice.
Mm.
Okay, so let's see. So what were your impressions the second time around? Or I guess however many times you've seen it.
You go first.
My impressions on Twilight. I definitely have some unpopular opinions. My first impression of Twilight was I love the angst. Let's start with the good. I love the angst. I love the general attitudes, the moodiness of it all. I think it reminds me very much of where I was as a teen in those years.
Mm-hmm.
I think it is an absolutely batshit crazy story. I think the entire film makes very little sense in my mind, especially because I haven't read the books.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I need the context of the other movies, because when I was watching it, there are so many moments where I was why did this happen? They didn't really set this up at all. I have no idea what's going on, and I have to assume that they were pulling it from the book. But yeah, there are a lot of moments where I was I don't know why this is happening. I think one of the, if we were to start from the beginning and go kind of chronologically, the opening scene where she walks in and the fan blows her scent to Edward.
Mm-hmm.
And he's totally disgusted. Okay, that's first of all a hilarious first interaction. I think just in general, if we are setting it up so that these characters have chemistry, what a bizarre way to start. I just I sat there and I was I'm so confused as to why this was their first interaction, but I like that one. I think that one's really funny. I think there's a comedic element to it.
It's because she's really delicious.
I know.
And so she smells her.
He's French fries. Yes, he's very, yeah. So it's funny to watch him quote unquote hold himself back from that moment. And he's so hot and cold. That is one thing that I have a really big problem with when it comes to Edward, is he is so, he's so, one time he's really sweet, and then the next time he's never talk to me again, you'll never understand me. And I'm just Edward, I need you to get it together. Get a psychiatrist or something, because we need to get these mood swings under control.
So you're not team Edward.
As of right now, I wrote in my notes as I was watching the movie, I was like, I feel like we're going to have to do the team Edward, team Jacob thing by movie until I finish the series, because like I'm sitting here and I'm like, what on earth? Like my favorite part of the first movie was when Jacob came at the end of the movie and he was like, my dad thinks you should break up with your boyfriend. Bye. I was like, love that. I love the genuine, like, just leave him, girl attitude, because I was just like, that's funny. But I do know a few things about the upcoming movies that make me very wary of Jacob. So I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. Jacob was not really in the first movie so much.
Not at all. That was like,
no.
That was a big thing that I noticed was like I think it's easier to like him because he's just only there for like positive interactions, you know, like he never does anything evil. He doesn't like gaslight Bella in the way that Edward does. The way Edward gaslights her during the first like truck scene when he saves her life, I was sitting there and I was just like, sir, what? He was like, what do you mean it was just adrenaline? And she was like, no, it literally was not. And he was like, yes, it was. Leave it alone. And I was like, I don't like your attitude, my man. I need you to get it together. You can't just be gaslighting ladies like this.
So you don't like how like he's trying to hide his identity from her?
I think I get why he's trying to hide the identity. I think there are so many better ways to do it. And maybe like if you're really trying to hide that identity, like you don't do stuff like that, you know? So,
you're gonna really hate him in the second movie.
I have a feeling that's true. Like it's kind of funny. Like it's interesting because I love like drama and teen movies and broodiness. So like on one level, Twilight is like perfect for me because I think like it feeds that part of my soul that's like, oh yes, I need the drama. Let's hear all about it. But then the logical side of my brain comes in. And it's like, I don't understand why you are still attracted to him when he's treating you like this, you know, when he's being so weird. Like, I sit there and I'm just like, I feel like she is doing so much work for this man. And it's just not worth it yet, in my opinion.
Well, don't you believe in, like, love at first sight?
That's a good question. I don't think so. I think so much of it has to be, like, so much of it has to be built off of something, which I think is why I have a problem with Edward, because I'm like, I can't just swallow the fact that they're meant to be together. I have to sit there and be like, okay, so maybe they're meant to be together. That's cool. But the actions have to match the intent, you know? And I'm like, and his actions do not match the intent. There are moments where it does, like when he saves her, but it's always like this damsel in distress type of situation. And I'm like, Bella, girl, like, if you are going to be a vampire, you need to learn how to get this shit together on your own, you know? Can't be relying on him.
Do you feel that way because of, like, their on-screen chemistry is not as well put together?
I think that's definitely part of it, because I would say one thing I noticed is, what's the name of the friend who Anna Kendrick plays?
Jessica.
Okay, yes. So the chemistry between Bella and Jessica, like, it just feels much more authentic than anything with Edward, which is funny because, like, they have way fewer interactions, and I feel like the interactions they do have are, like, actual teen interactions that I've seen before. Like, when they're dress shopping, and she's like, do you like this one? Do you not? And she's like, I don't like it. It is what it is. And she's like, whatever. I do look good though. And like moves on. I'm like, this is like that is like a real conversation that I've heard before, you know? And I think because Edward's supposed to be so brooding, it makes him not relatable to me, which makes it difficult for me to root in reality.
Is that like the type of guy you're not into?
No, that's the funny thing. Like, I'm deep into that. Like, I could get very into that, but like, I think,
like, what is it about him that like you don't
his
like?
Attitude, his gaslighty attitude.
Okay.
Like, I feel like he acts like, it's funny because he's not supposed to be like a wolf, but I feel like he acts like a quote unquote alpha male, and I'm not about that. Like, I sit there and I'm just like, oh no. And I know that that's the theme of the book because they start off with like the lion and the lamb, they start off with like the doe and stuff, so I understand what they're doing, but I think like I can't put myself in Bella's shoes and accept the way that he's treating me, you know?
But she saw him and she fell in love, so she only wants him.
She saw him
like either But he doesn't want her. That's like the whole plot of like that first like 2/3 of the story is just about her trying to find out more about him, trying to get close to him, and him being like, nah.
The thrill of the chase. Yeah, I think
basically.
Totally. Like, see, I can get it from that point of view. I think just like, I think if we were gonna say you could pick Edward or Jacob, like it would be Jacob every time, at least in this movie. Because Jacob's nice. He's like, hey, I fixed your truck. Hey, nice to see you. Hey, like, here's break up with your boyfriend. You know, like all that stuff. And Edward's like, you didn't see anything. You're just imagining stuff. Like all this stuff. I'm just like, Edward, like, I can't get over that. Like, I'm sorry, but that moment was like too much for me. Like one of the things that also you will probably feel more okay with because you read the book. But like one of the things that I could not swallow was the fact that everybody in this town is totally cool with the doctor of the town adopting a bunch of kids and then setting them up together. Like, if I met someone in real life where that was the scenario, like, I would pull the children aside and be like, are you okay? Because that's a crazy thing to hear, you know?
But like, they're not really his kids.
I know, that's what I'm saying. Like, I cannot swallow that. That is not enough for me. Like, I need a degree of separation. Like, I'm like, listen, if we are sleeping in the same house and we're calling the same parents mom and dad, there's a problem.
Yeah, but like, they're not human. You know what I mean? And they were all turned into vampires when they were already adults.
Okay, see, like, I didn't know that. That's context I don't have. Like, I think it's interesting. Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like the movie maker really is relying on you having seen the movie. Because, like, what are your feelings on the whole Cullen family as a whole?
So the dad, who is the doctor, he's kind of like this like philanthropist type. He's like very supposed to be very compassionate, and all of the Cullen kids, they all went through some sort of very like traumatic experience when they were turned into vampires, and so the dad kind of like rescued them in some ways, and then a lot of it, how like became together in couples, is kind of like they found each other, that kind of ways. And then Edward was kind of like the lone wolf type, where he never found like his special person until he met Bella.
Okay, see, like, that's the context. You know? See, that's like looking at it through the lens of the book, right? Like, I'm like,
so it's not like he set them up together. They kind of found each other.
Okay, so that makes it so much less gross in my mind, because when the way they said it in the movie is he's like matchmaker extraordinaire between his children. And I was like, no. I was like immediately put off. I was like, oh, none of that. But like when you say it like that, it's much more like, it's almost like they're all roommates, you know? And I'm like, that I can deal with. Like, that's fine with me. If we're sibling roommates, I can't deal with it, you know? But yeah, like, I feel like it's funny because a lot of the way that I feel about the movie is definitely coming from the fact that I haven't read the books, and that the books carry a lot more description that you're just kind of expected to know. Because like when I saw the dad, like, I did not get like compassion or anything like that. I kind of got like a little weird, because like they didn't really introduce him in the movie. Like, it was just kind of like super brief, and so like it was hard for me to feel sympathetic towards him, which I feel like you're supposed to feel, just because like he is supposed to be, like you said, he's supposed to be kind of like a caring character. And that was something that like the brief description of matchmaker of children kind of put me off immediately. And I was like, oh, I don't know how to feel about that. But like with your context, it makes more sense.
Yeah, they go more into it in the second film. Like, there is this scene where Jasper was kind of in like a toxic relationship, and then Alice found him and kind of was able to calm him down, and she was like the only one that was able to do so. And so that's how they got together and stuff like that.
Okay, see, like, I like that context.
I definitely get what you mean, that it is a little bit, they didn't really go into it at all in the first movie, and it is a little bit weird if you just go into like that said description.
I think I'm excited to hear or to see more of that kind of dynamic, because I feel like it will give a little bit more insight into what the relationships are actually supposed to be like. But I feel like they were really focusing on Bella and Edward, So like he was more of just like a what is going on over there kind of thing.
How do you feel about like the superpowers that they have?
The superpowers, let's see, I think
like how Edward is able to read people's minds, but he can't read Bella's for some reason.
That yeah, okay. I think it's an interesting detail, and I like that they all have different superpowers. I think my favorite is Alice because she's the one with the visions, right?
Yeah.
And I think that that's like a really interesting take because it's kind of like an oracle type of situation, and I'm fascinated by that idea, like the idea of like someone who can tell you your fate but you can't really do anything about it. I think that that's a really interesting concept, and I feel like it's a totally fun thing to bring into a teen movie. Let's see. Overall, I think Twilight is a really fun movie. I would watch it again. I think there are a lot of things that baffle me about it because I was not part of the craze, you know? So like I'm coming at this from like a backtracking point of view almost, where I'm like trying to look at it as if I was a teenager, because I think I would have loved it if I was a teenager. Like I was so deep into like the love triangle between Peeta and Katniss and I forget the other guy's name. But whatever, in the Hunger Games. And so like I could definitely see myself like getting really into this movie as a teen. I think I'm looking at it as an adult with like a different lens now. And I'm like, I like it, but I'm a little more skeptical. So I'm like, I want to see how this plays out, you know?
Yeah, I think definitely the targeted audience were the teen girls that all read those books.
Oh, I love movies targeted towards teen girls. So like, I have a feeling it will win in the end. I have a feeling I will like it in the end. Yeah. So that's like my initial take on the movie. What's your overall? Give me like an overall opinion.
I do really like the movie. I think it's definitely very nostalgia, you know.
Totally.
And I like the vibe of all the very like moody, raining.
Me too.
And
that's one of my favorite parts of it.
The aesthetics is really, really nice.
Yeah, I love like the teen grungy punk attitude kind of situation they have going on in there. Like that brings me genuine joy. It reminds me of my teenage years. I think who's your favorite character?
I like Alice a lot. She was like my favorite.
Me too.
When I first watched the film.
I think she's my favorite character, her or Jessica. I think Jessica, just because she's so funny, like she's comedic relief. And I think like every scene, she's just weird. She's a definite teenage girl. She reminds me of me when I was a teenage girl. Like I was just like that. I was just like, I go to get a date to the dance type of situation, you know, like that kind of thing. So yeah, I think it's between Jessica and Alice for me, but both of them I really liked. Okay, what's your favorite scene?
It's probably the baseball scene or like any of the scenes that are filmed in the forest.
Excellent. I am so glad you brought the baseball scene up because that is my favorite scene in the entire movie. And also probably the reason Alice is one of my favorite characters, because I will literally always from this point forward be throwing baseballs like that. Like every single part of my body is going to be throwing that baseball. But yeah, that scene cracked me up. Like I think it's so funny because it seems like they're in this movie or book. I guess I haven't read the books, I don't know, but in this movie it seems like they're kind of starting to build the world out a little bit, and they are kind of like creating these situations that they're justifying in ways that I don't totally understand. Like it makes me laugh that the school just accepts the fact that the Cullens are out every sunny day of the year. That's just cool. I was like, what is their curriculum? How did they graduate? They have all those like caps. And I'm like, wait, they're out every sunny day of the... How did they graduate? Like,
well,
that's
they've
crazy.
Graduated a lot of times.
I know, but like they must really be staying in just like super cold and dark areas, right? Like that's a lot of graduation. I mean, like how many hours do you need to graduate? Like it has to be, because I mean, like we live in Oregon, right? Mm-hmm. So like we kind of get a sense for the that like gloomy Pacific Northwest type of weather, you know? And like I'll say we have our share of sunny days. Like it's funny because like whenever I talk to someone about moving to Oregon, they're always like, oh, it's all rainy all the time. And I'm like, it is. Like, it definitely is rainy and there's a rainy season. But like when people said that to me, I moved from California. So like I was not prepared for the rain, but like at the same time, I knew what I was getting into and I was kind of wanting it because I'd spent 4 years in California, zero rain. And it was just kind of something that was like enticing to me.
Mm-hmm.
But it's funny because like when I did move to Portland, I was looking at like the weather and the area and the situation, and it doesn't rain that much. It's just like it's kind of like a steady drizzle all the time. Like I'm like it's never like pouring rain. There are moments when it is, but like for the most part it's just kind of like gloomy, you know? And I guess like that's what they're playing off of based on like being in Washington, right? Because it's always gloomy, so they don't have to worry about the sun. But yeah, like I'm like I feel like there has to be some kind of way where like a little foundation would make the glitter go away or something. Like I feel like there must have been more in the book.
Although, in my opinion, I think a good movie should be able to survive without the context of a book.
I agree with that. I think that especially when you're adapting from a book, like the movie should be able to stand on its own and relay the same information without needing the book. The book should be like supplemental almost, like where it's like, oh, like if you really wanted to know more, you could, you know. And I do think they touch on a lot of it, but I think that like they touch on a lot of it really quickly. Like one thing, so like as we're like kind of going down the plot of the movie, the baseball scene, I thought that was a really fun scene. I thought there was a lot going on there that I liked. I thought it was just like a totally fun teen moment in like a broody movie, which I love. But I did not understand why the like opposing vampire tribe was so hell-bent on Bella specifically. I'm like, it just feels like, especially because they show so many scenes where they're killing people, which, right, because we're trying to justify the fact that it's not the Cullens killing people that are quote-unquote vegetarians. But I was like, why Bella specifically? Like, it seems like there are so many easier targets that aren't being protected by a rival vampire gang, which, like, I mean, if you're just looking for a quick dinner, like, that feels much more simple than, like... It's
because she smells so good. I mean, look at what she did to Edward.
That she's... Okay, so, like, that's the whole... She just smells really good,
that
so
was
she's, like...
kind of... Well, that was kind of how the film portrayed it, that James became obsessed with her smell.
Yeah.
And then wanted to hunt her. Yeah, because she smells so good.
That's awesome. So she just has like mad vampire pheromones,
yeah,
I guess.
I mean, literally every time that Bella meets with the Cullen, like even outside of Edward, even with the Cullen family, they always comment on how good she smells.
Okay, that's fair. You know, that is true. They do have those moments where they're like, you smell. I guess like in my brain, I'm like, I guess that's enough. I feel like, I don't know, if I was like ravenously hungry, I would maybe just grab something easy. But I guess also like they're supposed to be a rival gang, so like there is some kind of like thrill in putting the rival gang down somehow. That like makes more sense in my brain, because I'm like, oh, like James is trying to like prove his dominance as like the dominant vampire in town or whatever. But yeah, like I was sitting there and I was like, so it's just that she is like a primo cut of meat, I guess.
Yeah, something like that.
And yeah, okay. So she's like a prime rib and everyone else is just like McDonald's. All right, I could get behind that. They just have expensive taste.
Yeah, so those three are the ones who kept killing all those people in town. And then I think Carla was kind of telling them like, this is like, they didn't leave and stuff like that. And I think they wanted to like take over their territory in some ways.
Okay, so it is a little bit of both, where he's like,
or that, I don't know, that's how I got from the movie, when from that interaction after the baseball scene. That's kind of what I got. I guess you maybe didn't get that, or to get a different vibe.
I think I did. I think I got more than like the good smelling thing. Like I got more like, this is our territory type of like almost gangs kind of situation. But
yeah, I mean, just from like the way that those three were filmed, they were like filmed like slow motion, walking in, and then all the Cullen family was like, "Oh gosh, like they're here," and like, "Hi, Bella," and then I think like one of the like Rosalie, yeah, Rosalie, she was like, "Well, you can spell her from a mile away. There's no point in hiding her." and then they were kind of like, they were all like very like alert and aware of each other. So I feel like that was kind of like subtle context of that scene, that like these three are trying to like invade on their territory, that kind of stuff.
Okay, see, like that I can get behind. That makes sense to me, especially like I think yes, they do allude to that, and the way that they did the scene. I was surprised with how quick that scene was, because it feels like the baseball scene was like 3 times as long as the scene where they explain why this is the villain now. And so like I was sitting there, I was like, oh, I guess all of a sudden, like, we are talking about Edward and Bella, we're talking about this guy who we like just met in earnest. And I don't fully understand why he is targeting this specific person. But with that, like, just think about how they're setting it up here. Like, I think they could have spent a little bit more time on that, just because, like, for someone walking in, just like watching the scene really fast, like that is maybe like 1/15 of the whole scene, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
And I feel like that's like the pivotal moment where they're like, this is a villain, this is the conflict, you know? Because it really is like the first, like you said, like the first 2/3 of the movie really is just about Edward and Bella kind of getting to know each other, you know? And I feel like the last third of the movie is all about James, who comes in the last third of the movie. So I was like, I am interested because I know that, what's the red-haired Victoria?
Yeah,
Victoria. I know that Victoria comes back in the second movie, so I'm excited to see that because I feel like they can build on that a little bit more. I almost feel like the reason that I was having trouble with this movie is because I feel like what it's really doing is setting up the second movie. I feel like what they're really doing is they're saying, hey, here are the characters. Here is the start of the relationships between the characters. We're kind of giving you that groundwork. And then in the second movie, stuff is actually going to start happening. Yeah. Because I feel like the relationship between Bella and Edward is great, but it's not really like the point of the first movie, at least. Because I feel like the actual like inciting incident is James going after Bella. Right?
I disagree with that. I have a different opinion.
Really?
I think the first movie is all about Edward and Bella and like this like love story of the two of them together. A lot of that has to be because I think at the time when this first came out, we didn't know there was going to be a second movie, you know?
Okay,
And so they needed to sell Robert Pattinson and Kristen Stewart together as like a unit. And I think they even had like a PR thing where they did date it for a while.
Really?
While they were while they were doing Twilight, they were like a couple together. So
that's awesome.
I think a lot of it for the first movie, they were just trying to sell the two of them together.
I think that's totally fair. I think that's actually
because like literally almost the entire film was about Bella trying to find out more about Edward.
Oh, yeah. 100%. And I think like with the context of like they didn't know whether there was going to be a second movie, that makes a lot of sense. Because for me, like I was like, why is the inciting incident so late into the movie? Like I was like, why does the actual part where there are real stakes only happens like in the last third of the movie? And it's because they're spending so much time on that. That makes a lot of sense, like historically speaking, right? Because they're trying to get the deal for the second movie.
Yeah, so I think what they were trying to do with this film was launch Kristen Stewart and Robert Pattinson together, and also coincide that with Twilight the film because they were both together, and use that as kind of like a launching pad for this franchise.
Totally. I mean, I think you're totally right because like it's
because that's how the Team Jacob, Team Edward thing came about in the second film.
Well, like, especially during that era, that was the move. Yeah. Like, it was always like, this is the next it couple, you know?
Because I know one of the arguments for the people that were Team Edward is that they're actually dating in real life. So like,
that's funny. I didn't know that. That's good historical context.
It's like we're the better team because they're actually dating in real life. You know?
They actually have real chemistry. Yeah. I think like it's funny, like what do you think of the chemistry between Edward and Bella? Like do you think it got to a point where like you felt like they were in love by the end, or like they actually had feelings for each other in the end, or did you feel like it's lacking or that they were going to build on it in the next movie?
I never really thought Kristen Stewart was the right choice for Bella.
Really?
Like I know they were also screening Lily Collins and Jennifer Lawrence. When I first heard about like this being turned into a film, and I was so excited for Jennifer Lawrence to be Bella.
Oh my god! Okay, well, Jennifer Lawrence was like teen icon.
She
like
was
of
so
course,
pretty. She was like
she can do
so
everything.
Pretty, and I was so excited when I heard that she might be Bella. And I don't know, maybe that wouldn't have worked out so well, but I never really bought Kristen Stewart as Bella. Like in my head, Bella was always blonde.
Really? That's interesting. I guess because you read the book.
Well, no, like the book said that she was not. She was a brunette, pretty sure. But I've always thought that like she should be a blonde, you know, in the film version.
Yeah, no,
she
I can
should be
see
blonde.
it.
Because like Edward was described as having like very like more classic vampire like complexions. So he was like very dark hair, pale face, that kind of stuff. So I thought to contrast that a little bit, you should have like a blonde actress play Bella.
That's okay.
But this is just like totally my film mind thinking, because
no, but you're
you
right.
want contrast. Usually if the male lead is a brunette or have a darker hair color, you want the female lead to be a blonde or have more lighter palettes so that they contrast each other and that pops up a lot better on screen. Like I just don't think Kristen Stewart fits Bella, and I've never had, because I feel like she doesn't have that right look, and also her acting is very deadpan.
I think that's what I was gonna say. Like I think she is very deadpan. I think that there are a lot. I think both of them are, and I think that Edward, like during that time, I'm forgetting his name. Oh, Robert Pattinson. Robert Pattinson, like, in my opinion, is a very handsome. Like, I think he is a handsome guy, and I think he works for the male lead there. But I think the way that both of them play off of each other just is a miss for me. Like, it does not work in the first movie. Because I like Kristen Stewart. That's what I was gonna get to, is like, as an actress / person, do you like Kristen Stewart?
Oh, I loved her. I really liked her in The Runaways.
Like I actually love Kristen Stewart, but I feel like, was this her breakout role? I feel like, did she do anything
Twilight
before this?
was like her breakout role.
Yeah, I feel like she was really
I think she was like 17 when she was on Twilight.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so young, and to be a breakout actress who is meant to play, like, because she got so much flack for this role, and like I understand why, but at the same time I sit here and I'm like, she was so young, like she was really kind of finding her identity at that point in time.
It was the first time we got a lead actress that was so deadpan. I think.
Yeah, for sure. I think you're right. Like, I think Twilight really was like that. It was really opening that genre up a little bit in the early 2000s, you know, or I suppose late 2000s, early 2010s. It came out in 2008. But yeah, like I think that's true. I think we were seeing people like you mentioned, Jennifer Lawrence and
Lily Collins,
Lily Collins, and who else? Who was a third person who did Divergent? Shailene Woodley.
Yeah.
And all of those women kind of, they had an edge to them, but it wasn't as deadpan and brooding as Kristen Stewart.
I didn't think
100%.
Kristen Stewart had any charisma in this film.
I think you're right. I think that's exactly what it is. And I think like it's interesting because it's interesting to watch the world react to a non-charismatic woman, especially someone so young, which is like, it's sad because you go back and you watch all those interviews with Kristen Stewart and she just looks so sad, like where it's like, I get it, and I understand why you feel like so weird about this role, but I also love who she became because of that, because I feel like with all of the negative attention she got for Bella in Twilight. Like she kind of found herself a little bit. Like she's much more punk and cool now. Like I feel like if she went back right now and redid the role, she would kill it. Like I feel like if they remade Twilight, they forced Robert Pattinson back into the studio, and they bring Kristen Stewart in, I feel like it'd be awesome, you know?
Yeah. But I do think her as Joan Jett in The Runaways is like what I think about her as an actress. That's like her peak. Like she played her so well.
I believe it.
Which is just such a departure from what I think of her as Twilight, as Bella.
Yeah, I mean, that's real, like, not only character growth, but, like, actual human growth in, like, the craft, you know?
Definitely. So let's talk about the Portland aspect of this movie. There are a lot of places in the film that I think we need to visit.
I think we'll have to.
Like Cannon Beach, have you ever been?
No, I haven't. It was funny. I like looked up all the articles after watching the movie because I was like, this looks so familiar. Like all of these spots look so familiar. And there are so many around Portland. Like Cannon Beach was that what they were calling Push Beach?
Yeah,
what do they
the
call
Push
it?
Beach.
Yeah, whatever they call it.
They call that.
Yeah, no, I think that's so interesting. Like it's funny because it is recognizable. Like it does give a very Portland vibe. And I actually over the Halloween season got the chance to visit the Twilight house, which was really interesting. I didn't get to go inside, but I stood outside. And it was very dramatic and brooding. I was disappointed it didn't look like it did with a filter over it. But aside from that, everything was great.
Yeah, and the all like the waterfalls, I want to visit those.
Me too. I feel like we should do like a podcast day where we just go, or like a vlogging day where we just like go around and like visit all the spots. Listener, if you didn't know this, Claire and I have this long-term goal of Airbnb-ing out the Twilight house and doing an episode from there.
It's not gonna happen because
we can dream. We can dream.
But like,
put the good vibes out there.
The Airbnb is like booked all year round
for years.
Years.
Like literally, I think I just like have to call the person and beg. But yeah, like it's very difficult to get into. But I think the neighborhood is kind of funny. Like all of those spots are kind of in a similar area. So like I forget where it's supposed to be. Well, I know it's supposed to be Forks, Washington, but it's really like a small town in Oregon. And it's funny because like all of the filming locations are all like right in the same area. Like they're all in the same place. And it's also where they filmed, same town that they filmed Halloween Town in. If you've seen that, like weirdly enough.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like literally
like
all the street
the prom store.
Yeah. And yeah, the diner is in the same place. So like lots of the bookstore, like lots of different things. It's a lot smaller in person than it looks in the movie, which is funny.
I think
like,
we definitely need to go to the Columbia River to see all the waterfalls and stuff like that. Oh, and that's where the vampire baseball scene is filmed.
Love it. Okay, we have to go there, obviously. I'm like, oh my God, we have to go and recreate the scene. It's gonna be so fun.
I think Forks, all like the Forks stuff is filmed in Washington, I think, right? But a lot of like the police station was filmed in Oregon. The high school is in Washington, but the hunting ground is in Oregon. Is at a place called Silver Falls State Park, which is actually kind of close to us. It's only about 20 miles away from Salem, Salem is pretty close to us. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think we have to go and have a little vlog day where we go and explore all these locations.
And like the cafe was filmed in Oregon.
I think let's go see if the cafe has good food. Let's go. I wonder because what Charlie has like a specific order. It's like whatever an apple cobbler.
Yeah,
it's like
I
steak
think so.
and apple cobbler or something like that. Let's go and get the steak and apple cobbler. See if it really lives up to its movie presence.
Okay, so now it's time for possibly my favorite part of every podcast now, the Maya Fashion 5.
All right, here we are. Welcome to Maya's Fashion 5. Today we are talking about the fashion in Twilight 2008. Claire mentioned earlier that pretty much everything in this movie is from Abercrombie. 100% agree, and I think that that is so nostalgic to me that even though the fashion taste is, in my opinion, I hate the 2000s fashion, terrible, but in this instance, I really do love how they used it. I think the layering, I think the skinny jeans, I think the multiple pockets on any given item of clothing is kind of incredible and definitely adds to the era that this movie was from. Bella has kind of a tomboy-ish wardrobe, which was, I think that's fitting in my opinion. I kind of like it. It's definitely, you could have seen me in pretty much any one of her outfits during this era. So like I have actual appreciation for that. It's so funny, like it's a bit of a bummer because I think men's fashion from that era is really boring. I do think, although I dislike the early 2000s fashion, that there were some innovative moments during that time, but mainly for women. I haven't seen a lot of men's fashion that has come out of that I really have an actual appreciation for, and I think that stands true in this movie. I think, I'm sorry, but you're going to have to try a little bit harder than just like long sleeve button downs for me. That said, I think that the women in the Cullen family have really, really fun outfits going on there. I think that they have more of an elegant and ethereal, like a dark ethereal vibe to them, whereas Bella is kind of just like everyday girl, which I kind of love. I think that they did that really well. The prom dress, I'm not a fan of that, but at the same time, I'm not really a big fan of prom dresses in general. Like, so unless she did something really outlandish and out there, I probably wouldn't have been a fan. One thing I will comment on is the lack of accessories in pretty much all of Bella's outfits. Like, come on, we could have added a belt, we could have done, like, layering is not going to cut it all the time. I can get behind it, especially in an era sense, not now, but in an era sense, I can recognize that was what was going on at the time. But you know what else was going on at the time is mad accessories, and I just don't see that with Bella. Maybe she's just not supposed to be that type of girl. Okay, we get it. But at the same time, like, come on, there have got to be accessories that exist that fit your style. It doesn't have to be anything specific, but let's spruce it up a little. I will say some of the chunky jewelry worn by the Cullen family is so reminiscent of the early 2000s. It is bringing me back to this era where I had this giant beaded coral necklace, and I just feel right there with them. I understand that Edward is supposed to be a dark and brooded character and that his outfits are supposed to kind of reflect that, but I'm also not loving the fact that they didn't give him anything more than like the cool guy jacket of that era. Like, don't get me wrong, I can get behind the cool guy jacket, but I think he could have been more dimensional in that sense. Like, again, button downs, sweaters. Okay, I mean, I will get behind the pop collar. I do like the pop collar. I think that's a choice. But the rest of it, I feel like, I don't know, like they really gave him very little to work with. And I think that he worked with what he had, but come on, you guys. Like, I feel like we could have had a really interesting Edward. My favorite fashion scene in this movie is the baseball scene. Who doesn't love the vintage baseball look? And especially the entire family in the same uniform. It just makes you like want to go out and buy one of those jerseys. I also think that the rival vampires have such interesting style. And I don't know why they gave the villains like the fun outfits and the good guys like such boring square outfits. But at the same time, I guess like maybe that's like alluding to something that I don't know about yet or something like that. I feel like they could have made the Cullens really badass looking, but kind of dialed it back a little bit. Like it's clear that they know how to do that because of James, and I think her name's Lily, Victoria for sure. But yeah, like I don't really see that with the Cullens, and I think that they could have definitely kicked that up a notch. Overall, I think it's a very fun early 2000s vibe. If you really like early 2000s, this is definitely the fashion movie for you. So go check it out. Go look back and tell me whether you agree with me or not. Tell me why I'm wrong. or tell me why I'm right, because I am. A note to our listener is that we're going to be breaking up our Twilight series, so we are going to try and do it every other episode. So if you're not a Twilight fan, you can go ahead and skip every other episode until the series is over.
Okay, so we will be taking a small break. We're not releasing the third episode until December 19th. And a lot of that has to do with Maya and I are trying to get a grant to do something that actually benefits Portland.
We live here and we think it's important, and we think there's a lot of really interesting stuff that goes on here. So we are going to be working on that for a little while, and we're going to tell you more about that once we kind of have it more set in stone.
Yeah, and as always comment suggestions on what you guys would like us to see for the third episode. We originally were going to do interview with a vampire, but if you guys feel like you want a break from vampires, since we did Twilight for this episode, let us know what you want us to review. And then for our fourth episode, we will be doing Twilight New Moon.
Woohoo! So get excited for that. Stay tuned for the holidays. We'll have some stuff for you. We'll make sure you're not bored. But bear with us as we are trying to figure this grant stuff out. And communicate with us. Let us know what you want. And we'll do it. I mean, at this point, we're real open to suggestions. This is the most you could possibly impact the podcast.
Yeah, definitely.
So let us know.
Yeah, so we will be taking a break from Twilight for the next episode, and then getting back to the New Moon, the episode after that.
Thanks so much for sticking with us through the second episode of Walter's Rear Window. We hope you enjoyed our crazy rumination on the wild world of Twilight. Whether you're Team Edward, Team Jacob, or just love a good vampire romance, we're happy you're here. Let us know what you want to hear next. Reach out to us on Instagram or Discord at Walter's Rear Window. Find all of our episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube. And now, a quick mention from our sponsor. Hey listener, hey, it's Maya. You may have recognized my voice from my first Venice Cryptid ad, and here I am again to get you excited for the up-and-coming virtual boardwalk and artist network I am creating. Visit our in-progress site at venicecryptid.com, that's VENICECRYPTID.com, and reach out for more information on how to join the network. See ya! And that's it for us today. Thanks so much for tuning in. Talk soon!